Samajana Timanasya, Swansam Slaka, Section Vitamina, Kasma Sudhana. We are at the last section of this fifth chapter. Nearly at the last section, text 17. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Tad buddhas tad atmanas tad nishtas tad parayana gachanti panaravritam jnana nirdutta kalmasa. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and views are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings to complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. So, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the last word in the Absolute. Therefore, in all ways, Krishna is the Supreme Reality. A Krishna conscious person can thoroughly understand that there is duality, simultaneously identity and individuality in Krishna, and equipped with such transcendental knowledge, one can make steady progress on the path of liberation. So yes, using one's mind, faith, intelligence, mind, faith, and refuse, all fixed in the Supreme, one becomes purified. If you have Krishna in your mind, you become purified. Thus, Vishwanath Bhakti writes, those whose intellect, mind, and faith are fixed on me, Paramatma, who are absorbed in glorifying and serving me, being washed of all ignorance by knowledge, never take birth again. So we become washed by knowledge, washed of all ignorance by knowledge. Krishna is a washing machine, but if we have Krishna in our mind, we become purified. That 18 is the famous verse, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Bhavana Kapinste Ashtini Sunasheshva Pakacha Panita Samadakshina. The humble sage by virtue of true knowledge sees with equal vision a learned Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater with equal vision. So, a Krishna conscious person does not make any distinction between species and castes. But these differences of body are meaningless from the viewpoint of a learned transcendentalist. So you go in the forest and you see a tiger. And you see the tiger is a part and parcel of Krishna. You see the soul. But what do you do when you see the tiger? You're going to embrace it. I love the tiger. No, you run away. You have to be practical also. Yes, it's a spirit soul, but it's a spirit soul bewildered, covered by material nature. And you see the spirit soul, but they don't see you as a spirit soul, but as your food. So then we have to be clear here. The similarity in the quality of the soul and the super soul, however, does not make them equal in quantity. For the individual soul is present only in that particular body, whereas the Paramatma is present in each and every body. A Krishna conscious person has full knowledge of this, and therefore is truly learned and has equal vision. So he sees also the super soul in everyone's heart. But the difference is that the individual soul is conscious within the limited jurisdiction of the body, whereas the supersoul is conscious of all bodies. The supersoul is present in all bodies without distinction. So yes, the wise sees equally the Brahman endowed with knowledge and good conduct, the cow, the elephant, the dog, and the dog eater. So that makes the heart of a devotee soft-hearted. He does not want to hurt any animal unnecessarily. And he sees the super soul inside. Paramatma is equal, like the rainfall. You will hear about that at the end of the 9th chapter. Samam Sarvabhuteshu Namit Veshiti Nakaya. Krishna says, I am equal to all living entities that situate in their heart as Paramatma. Like the equal, like rainfall. Since the respective species receive their forms according to their respective karma, not through the Lord's like and dislike of certain jivas. No, the supersoul is in the heart, and he knows exactly what kinds of activities you have done in your previous life and what reaction he will give. This is a super computer. He knows everything, and exactly you get a reaction. That this is and is equal to everyone. It just gives them the reaction, like rain falls, different places. Yes. 9. No. Yahaivata sita sargo yesam sangastitam mana nirdasami samam brahma tasma brahmanite sita. Those whose mind are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman, whose mind is established in sameness and equanimity. Yeah, sees over everywhere the spirit soul. He has conquered the conditions of birth and death. So what's in 18 described is a vision of an Uttam Adhikar. He doesn't see bodies anymore. He sees the spirit soul within the body as a living entity. So equanimity of mind, as mentioned above, is a sign of self-realization. As long as one identifies with the body, is considered a conditioned soul. But as soon as he's elevated to the stage of equanimity to realization of the self, is liberated from the material condition. So we know we are all equal on the spiritual platform. That as spirit souls, that if I think myself a sannyasi, I'm in Maya. I'm not a sannyasi. I'm a spirit soul, a servant of Krishna, but I play the role of a sannyasi. But I'm not thinking myself. If I think myself like that, I'm in Maya. We have to be careful. It's subtle that you can be in this movement and constantly in Maya. So similarly, when a living entity is without attraction or hatred, it also becomes flawless and eligible to enter into the spiritual sky. The liberation from samsara, birth and death, as long as one identifies with this body, is considered conditioned. But from the moment that, but as soon as he's elevated to the stage of equanimity to realization of the self, he's liberated from conditional life. That, yeah. Hare Krishna. Stira Buddhi, self-intelligent. Who is self-intelligent? Stira Buddhi, 20. Napaspritsyat priyam prapya. No vichyat prapya cha priyam. Stira Buddhira samudo. Pamavid pamanisita. Napaspritsyam priyam prapya. If something pleasant comes, a devotee is not happy. That if novichet propria sabiam, if something unpleasant comes, a devotee does not lament. It's equal to it. And that being equal is called stira buddhir. Stira buddhir, fixed intelligence. Prabhupada writes self-intelligent. And asamudo, one is unbewildered. Then one Brahmavit, one can know the signs of God. Brahmanisita is situated in transcendence. That's the symptom of the self-realized soul are given herein. The first symptom is that it's not illusioned by the false identification of the body with the true self. He knows perfectly well that he is not his body, but is the fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to the body. This steadiness of mind is called stira buddhi, or self-intelligence. This is called Brahman realization or self-realization. Such steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. You see here these children, one is crying and the other is laughing. They are completely absorbed in the mind. Good experience, laughing. Bad experience, immediately crying. And there is nothing between. There is no intelligence between that's going to control it. Immediately absorbed in the mind. But when we become older, the subtle body develops, and the intelligence comes between. And that's stira buddhi, that intelligence. It's used in Krishna's service. Stira buddhi is intelligence when that identification with the mind and the body and the pleasures of the body is gone. And the distress also. No interest in the pleasures, nor in the distress. It's just for the machine. The happiness and distress is experienced in the mind, and it's an invention. It's not me, this happiness and distress. It's in the mind. That it's not me. That's stira buddhi. I'm happy when Krishna is happy. And when I can serve Krishna, I feel satisfied. That's the satisfaction of the soul, higher satisfaction. That otherwise you are in duality, good and bad. Good and bad is for the body. Good and bad does not exist for the soul. What exists is what's good for Krishna consciousness and bad for Krishna consciousness. That we have to know. The self-realized soul does not rejoice or lament on attaining favorable or unfavorable conditions attained by prarabdha karmas. Prarabdha karma, that's the reason. Manifest karma that comes to the mind in the form of happiness and distress. And we think we are the mind, we are fooled. And we suffer. So why? Why is someone not influenced by that? His intelligence is fixed in his Atma. He identifies with the body. That's stira buddhi. Yes?
The person it's already beyond Zen to differentiate.
Beyond
He
what?
doesn't differentiate what is good for Krishna, what is not, or still.
It's still.
Still.
Is well aware, and is aware of the happiness and distress coming in the mind, but he does not identify with it. He's not interested in the happiness and the and the distress of the body. Let it come, but it's not me. That I'm too busy in Krishna consciousness to be absorbed in this happiness and distress. I'm outside of it with my consciousness. I'm in my devotional service, in loving Krishna. I'm not in this mind. That's Sthira-buddhi. Yes. So, Vishwanatha Bhakti is not bewildered, since bewilderment arises from identification with joy, lamentation, and other emotions which arise in the mind. We are not these emotions that come up into the mind. As spirit soul, we have our own emotions, and we have to revive them by purifying our heart. And then spiritual emotions come, and they come from the soul, not from the mind. It's not that we try to make ourselves emotionless. No, we have to bring it to the spiritual platform. Emotions felt for Krishna in devotional service are transcendental, are not a product of the mind. But the emotions within the mind, we can use in Krishna service. We can try to use in Krishna service. Deity worship is full of emotions. Even taking darshan of Nrsimhadev here, full of emotions. Good dovetail it. And then you will, if you are Sthira-buddhi, you will get the pleasure within. And Krishna goes closer and closer to the yogi, which he will explain in the next chapter. Payaspase sasaktatma pindat atmani yatsukam sabrahma yoga yuktatma sukam aksham asnute. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized soul, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for it concentrates on the Supreme. That. So he realizes it's always in trance within, enjoying the pleasure within. Yes. So that we have these two aspects in devotion service. The devotion is cultivated within, and the service is without. But the two should be there, devotion and service. It is mentioned here. A person in Brahma Yoga or Krishna consciousness is so absorbed in the loving service of the Lord that he loses taste for material sense pleasure altogether. Finish. That is the test in spiritual realization. Spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. A Krishna conscious person is not attracted to any kind of sense pleasure due to his being a liberated soul. So a person in Brahma Yoga or Krishna consciousness is so absorbed in the loving service of the Lord that he loses taste for material sense pleasure. Spiritual realization, sex pleasure is going ill together. If Lord Shiva is always meditating on Krishna within his heart, on the instruction of Brahma in the beginning of creation, is the greatest Vaishnava. Enjoyment is suffering. Does another less. So this is all jnana, which is favorable for devotional service if we apply these things. This is for our application, that I som sociabo gadu krioninga Eiftatjan van de counting. Now te shurama teba Buddha. An intelligent person does not take part in the souls of mystery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasure have a beginning and an end, and so the wise does not delight in them. So a liberated person is not interested in anything which is temporary. Knowing well the joys of transcendental pleasure, how can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasure? At the end, therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasures, which are the cause of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more one is attracted by material miseries. That's on the screen. So that's something we have always to remember. Enjoyment on a material platform means suffering. And the sages say, don't do it. It's not worthwhile. It's temporary. What will you gain? Nothing. So a devotee does not do that. He knows enjoyment in this world is not gratis. You have to pay for it by suffering. And these are the teachings of King Rishabhadev. That's my dear Rishabhadev, my dear sons, my dear boys, of all living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world and who has been aware that this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hawks that eat stool. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotion service. By such activity, one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever. So it says, don't go for the sense gratification, which is available for dogs and ox and animals. Go for that pleasure, which is unending, which is transcendental, and which continues forever. That activity that purifies your mind, that this divine position, to attain this divine position of devotional service. That is what it tells us. Verse 23. Saknoteta vyasatum praksharya vimoksanat kamakodabhavam vikam sayukta sa sukinara. Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material sense and check the force of anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. Tolerate the urges of the material senses. Pacha vegam zakoda vegam jiva vegam trapasta vegam eta vegam. You know the verse. So that's the same thing which is explained here. If one wants to make steady progress on the path of self-realization, he must try to control the forces of the material senses. Material desires, when unsatiated, generate anger, and thus the mind, eyes, and chest become agitated. Therefore, one must practice to control them before one gives up this material body. It is the duty of the transcendentalist to try strenuously to control desire and anger. So material desires, when unsatiated, generate anger, and thus the mind, eyes, and chest become agitated. That's what Srila Prabhupada writes. But then Vishwanath, he who can tolerate in this world the agitation arising from lust and anger before being liberated from the body is a yogi and is happy. 24. The perfect mystic. Yonta sukanta ramastatanta jyotirivaya sayoga brahmanirvanam brahmavutadikachati. One whose happiness is within, who is active within, who rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, actually is the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. This is the yogi who inside rejoices this happiness within. The true happiness lies within you. It's in the soul, not in the mind. There's the wrong place to find happiness. That unless one is able to realize happiness from within, how can one retire from external engagements meant for deriving superficial happiness? Such a liberated person no longer desires external happiness. This state is called Brahma Buddha, attaining which one is sure of going back home, back to God. So unless one is able to release happiness from within, how can one retire from external engagements meant for deriving superficial happiness? A liberated person enjoys by factual experience, Prabhupada. So we have heard that before in the second chapter, women's paramdristvani vartate. One cannot seize the lower activities unless one experiences the higher activities of Krishna consciousness, which are experienced on the soul level, on the transcendental level. That this is the perfect mystic, and here, but before attaining that, Labande Brahmanefanam Rishyakshina Kalmasam Shinadvetyatatma Sarvabhuta Hiterata. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living entities, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. Can someone read the purport?
Only person who is fully in Krishna consciousness can be said to be engaged in welfare work for all living entities. When the person is actually in the knowledge that Krishna is the fountain head of everything, then when he acts in that spirit, he acts on everything. The suffering of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. Therefore, to actually revive this consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. One cannot be engaged in such first-class welfare work without being liberated in the supreme. The Krishna conscious person has no doubt about the supremacy of Krishna. He has no doubt because he is completely free from all sins. This is the state of divine law. A person engaged only in ministering to the physical welfare of human society cannot factually help anyone. Temporary relief of the external body and the mind is not satisfactory. The root cause of one's difficulties in the heart striving for life may be found in one's forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. When a man is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna, he is actually a liberated soul, although he may be in the material tabernacle.
So Srila Prabhupada says here that the Krishna consciousness lives in his relationship with Krishna, lives not the life of the body in this world, but lives in his relationship with Krishna within. That, and these are the activities of such a self-realized soul. He works for the welfare of all living beings. That but such a person is assured of liberation. Kama koda vimuktanam yatinam yatashetsam abhidabhava nirpanam vartevititatmam. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavor for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. So, Prabhupada writes, just try to worship in devotional service Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even great sages are not able to control the forces of the senses as effectively as those who are engaged in transcendental bliss by serving the lotus feet of the Lord, uprooting the deep-grown desire for fruitive activities. That's the process of devotional service, explained in the fourth canto. A devotee of the Lord constantly engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness, perfect in self-realization, very quickly attains liberation in the Supreme. And at the end, similarly, the devotee in Krishna consciousness, although far away from the abode, can elevate himself to the abode, to that abode simply by thinking of him constantly. By engaging in Krishna consciousness, he does not feel the pangs of material miseries. This state of life is called Brahma Nirvana, or the absence of material miseries due to being constantly immersed in the Supreme. So this is samadhi. One concentrates on Krishna while doing his service. So that samadhi for Arjuna was fighting for Krishna. He was with Krishna. It was easy for him to fight for Krishna. And he was always in samadhi and Krishna. So that is, if we are always absorbed in Krishna within, then we are with our consciousness on the spiritual platform. We don't experience anything of the body anymore. So that absorption we need to attain inside. And here in the next two verses, this absorption in God consciousness, Krishna consciousness, is explained how to attain it according to the Ashtanga Yoga system. How to become absorbed in the super soul. So, therefore, that's an introduction of the next chapter. And that. But if one always thinks of Krishna, then one will be elevated to Krishna's abode. That's the point here. Brahma Nirvana, Krishna's abode, the spiritual abode. Yeah. Liberation in the Supreme. 27-28. Sparsankritva bahir bayam sakshu saivantare bhuvo vanapana samakritva nasabhyantracharina atendriya mano buddhir munya mokshaparayana vihatacha bhayakodo yasada muktaiva cha. That shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inwards and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence, the transcendentalist aiming at liberation comes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. So, and Prabhupada in the purport refers to the different stages of Ashtanga Yoga. Yam, Niyam, things not to do, things to do. Follow regulative principles. And then that means complete celibacy. In the yoga schools, married persons are not allowed. In the bona fide yoga schools, not allowed. Only celibate. So yam, niyam, and then ashan. Ashan doing sitting postures that first learn tadas and then the lotus pose. Not easy, this lotus pose. I can do it for a few seconds. It's too strenuous. But, the asham, and then pranayam, breathing exercises that takes a whole time, breathing exercises, and then pratyahara, shut of all external sense objects go inside. And then after that, you have Dharan, the beginning of meditation, and then Dhyan is meditation, and then Samadhi, always completely absorbed in the Supreme. That through that process, we must also attain by the chant of the holy name. That, and Prabhupada explains that, Nectar of Instruction, text 8, in the purport, there are 5 stages of Smarana Vasta. After Varana Dasa, acceptance of the holy name, 5 stages of Smarana Vasta. Sometimes you remember Krishna when you chant, sometimes not. And those moments that you remember Krishna should become longer. And the periods that you forget Krishna, shorter. At the same time, the remembrance of Krishna must be continued without any interruption. Without any interruption. And then, gradually, it becomes without interruption, you remember Krishna. And then Krishna will start to reveal yourself in a lecture, said Prabhupada. First, you will see his beauty, his form, his beauty, then his qualities, his sweetness, then his entourage, the spiritual world, and his associates, and then enter into his pastimes. So that is Samadhi, that not to be imitated. We may attain that after many lifetimes, sometime in the future. That lifetime is not much. Yes?
But it can also be attained in this lifetime or not? It can also be attained in this lifetime?
Bhakti Saraswati Maharaj said, you should make it in this lifetime. So you should do your best.
Yeah.
But yeah. When one is well situated in devotional service, one comes to the transcendental position, qualified to feel the presence of the Lord in the sphere of one's activity. This particular position is liberation in the Supreme. At the end, the other words, Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of executing yoga principles. This will be thoroughly explained in the next chapter. The Krishna conscious person, however, being always engaged in devotional service, does not risk losing his senses to some other engagement. This is a better way of controlling the senses than Ashtanga Yoga. So devotional service, Krishna says, better than Ashtanga Yoga. So, but anyway, we will hear it that later. Good. Then here you have the tortoise. Analogy of the tortoise. The Paramatma indeed serves such persons. Paramatma in all respects attends upon those persons who endeavor in this way. It is said, the fish nourishes its offspring by seeing the turtle by meditation and the birds by touch. I nourish my devotees with similar affection. That's interesting. The yogi here, so-called yogi. The yogi becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. This yoga process helps one to become free from all kinds of fear and anger and thus feel the presence of the super soul in the transcendental situation. That's the purpose of yoga. We will learn at 4 o'clock. We will hear in 6, 7. Paramatma Samahita. The purpose of yoga is to attain the Paramatma, the super soul. These are all the links of yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. We went over them. Better than Ashtanga Yoga, this is a better way of controlling the senses than Ashtanga Yoga, Prabhupada says. Now the peaceful one, Bhaktram Sagatapasam Sarvalokamayaslam Sudam Sarvabhutnam Gatpamam Santim Richati. A person in full conscious of me knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifice and austerity, that is the supreme of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor of the well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So the greatest peace for Komal is simply this: Krishna is the beneficiary of all human activities. Man should offer everything to the transcendental service of the Lord. He is the proprietor of all planets and demigods thereon. At the end of the purport, there is a gradual process of elevation in the practice of Yam, Niyam, Asham, Pranayam, Pratyahara, Dharam, Jnana, and Samadhi. But this only prefers perfection by devotional service, which alone can award peace to the human being. It is the highest perfection of life. So, devotional service is the supreme process that Ashtanga Yoga is only an introduction, Prabhupada says, to come to that level. So on the screen, you have the peace formula. Lord Krishna is the beneficiary in all human activities. One should offer everything to the transcendental service of the Lord because he is the proprietor of all planets and demigods thereon. The Lord is the master of material nature, and the conditions. The Lord is the master of material nature, and the conditions those are under the stringent rules of material nature. Unless one understands these birth facts, it is not possible to achieve peace in the world, either individual or collectively. This is your memorization verses, if you have the same, 522 and 529. Isam Sosirabuka, to them gave that young from the Kanati Shomatable to Ambuktam Sevtafsam, Sablok Masam, Sudam Savabutam, Katsmam, Santim, Pitsati. Thank you. Any last question? Okay, we will. Yeah.
Between waiting and praying, because you can pray
Well,
for you can pray for conversion, you can beg for conversion. What's the difference between begging and praying?
Begging and baying and praying. Well, you can pray for material fulfillment of material desires, and you can beg for spiritual advancement. Praying is the activity. Begging can be the mood in which you do the activity. But yeah, begging, that the right mood is, I feel helpless. When we pray for Krishna, please help me. If the begging is reflecting a mood of urgency, then it's good. It should feel that urgency to get out of this material entanglement and be properly situated with our consciousness out of the madness of this world. Good. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Worship Paramatma.
Worship Paramatma.
Super soul.
Yeah. So Paramatma for the devotee becomes Krishna. We worship Krishna either on the altar or in our heart or mind. Krishna is in our heart. We can worship him every moment in our heart. Prabhupada explains in a lecture, he says, you can keep a golden jewel throne and put it in your heart and then invite Krishna to take place. You can feed him in your heart. You can do everything with the mind. That's a proper use of the mind. That you worship him in your heart. And this is not imagination, Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Thank you. You at 4 p.m. for the last chapter.